Okay, here's my political rant. My name is Marcus Bayona. Today is September 2nd, and it is about 12:30 Central Standard Time. Um, Basically, I'm here to discuss how the left has lost its scruples, and this can happen to both sides, where they become so radicalized. And a wise person once said that when somebody's views become so radicalized that it becomes their religion, and anybody who goes against them becomes a traitor, an apostate, or a heretic. And those in the middle are completely annihilated and get shouted down so loud that there is no possible way of even having a conversation with them. Just like talking with a wall. So what the left has done, in my opinion, I think Trump is partly to blame, and it's sort of his brilliance that he's been able to do this, but he's made them so radicalized, so anti what he stands for, and so anti what the party stands for. So, what's the party? It's conservatism. And so, anti conservatism would be anti values, not having any values. So, there's a certain faction of the left that has gone into this hardcore anti-value, dye your hair every color in the rainbow, Trump tattoos that are derogatory and obscene, basically putting piercings inside their ears, and when they take them out, they're the size of silver dollar holes, wearing clothes such as pussy hats and other apparel that looks like it went through a shredder, and they're being cheered by the left. It's more of the not so no value left, but they're being cheered as the minions, the cheerleaders. So whether it's these Antifa groups or these liberal groups on college campuses, they're basically getting pushed to what has been called as a psychological deranged syndrome. And it happens because they're just so infuriated by Trump. And by doing so, it's what's made him the president and go against all odds and, accomplish what nobody thought he could accomplish. I've supported the GOP party. I've voted Democrat in the past when I was younger. And then I realized that the Democrats, in my opinion, really just want to give handouts to buy their votes. And I have learned in life that it doesn't help people when you enable them and you give them freebies and you give them handouts. What helps people is when you help them to work hard. Now, certain civil institutions such as some sort of welfare and Medicaid and helping the elderly, that's good. But let's face it, a lot of that is better well handed in the private sector. And the United States, they say white privilege, this privilege, that privilege. Really, it's American privilege. Out of the 70 countries, for instance, that are predominantly black in their population around the world, and we're in the United States, the black population is only about 13%. Those 13% have their moderate income is higher than the highest income in those 70 other countries that are predominantly black. You got Beyonce and Jay-Z, they're worth over $1 billion, and athletes that are making $20 million a year. So let's face it, whether you're black, brown, Asian, Caucasian, Indian, whether you're dot, feather, what have you, you're going to be more privileged here in the United States because it's American privilege. And no other country in the world has been so beneficial in getting people out of the depths of poverty and having access to health care, whether you just go into the emergency room. No emergency hospital can turn anyone away, and nobody else will do that. So then we talk about, well, what about immigration? Well, what about immigration? After World War II, we had just about zero immigration because we were so just distraught after World War II as a country, and we didn't want anybody coming over here, and they were having Japanese internment camps at that time and whatnot. And then slowly we started letting more people in, and in the 70s, we let in about 250,000 people. In the 80s, it jumped out to about 500,000. In the 90s, it jumped up to about 750,000, and now we let in 1 million people. But how is it going to be as a sovereign country help the poor people if in the world there's over 3 billion people that could be considered refugee status or more, and we're going to let them all in here? And if we do that, how is that going to help the poor people that are already here? It's not. It's going to make them more in a situation they have to compete more for jobs, they have to compete more for health care, they have to compete more for housing. So how is that going to help anybody? And then how do we know we're not letting in terrorists in? Well, you're Latino, and Trump said that all Mexicans and whatnot are racists, and rapists, and he's apparently the racist. Well, some of the Latinos that do come over here, Mexicanos, people from Central America, and people from all over, some are terrorists, and you call it a Trojan horse, as some have stated, as Trump stated. And also, you do have people that come over here. Look at Molly Tibbetts and the girl that was raped and then killed and by an illegal, and but that happens every single day. That's not the isolated incident. So all we're saying is, yes, let immigrants come here. We need them to fill these jobs, to be the backbone of the country. But let's do it on a merit system. And Trump's actually increased the work visas for the people that come over here to work in the agriculture. But you don't hear about that on mainstream media. But getting back to the left and how they become so anti-value that they've gone crazy. They're getting all these prompts by everybody in the left party, and then now they're talking about socialism. Well, it's real simple. And another wise person once said that, do you believe in government? Do you trust government? No, of course. Everybody says no. You can ask every liberal to say, I don't trust government. Well, then why would you want more of it? Because that's what the basic Democratic Party wants. They want socialism. What is socialism? That's where the government controls every aspect of your life. I mean, do you really want that? No, who does? So then people go, well, why else are you a conservative? Well, because back when Roe versus Wade first came out, they really weren't certain what the fetus was, if it was alive. But now, with all the breakthroughs and medical advancements, we know unequivocally that the fetus can live outside the womb at just 25 weeks, and that it is a human, it is an individual, it is a person. So the Constitution of the United States says that every individual and person deserves the right of life, liberty, and happiness, and that includes the baby in the womb. So the choice, let's face it, it starts before the inception, before the act of consecrating the baby. But once that act has happened, you got to face up, live up to those consequences, because what abortion is, it's not about choice. It's about robbing all the choices of a baby, of another person, so that you can avoid all the consequences. Then, they come up with these 1% or less than 0.5% of abortions that were because of incest or because of rape. And those are horrible acts. But let's face it, over 99% of them, close to that number, is because people just don't want to have the baby, so it's a form of birth control. So, in getting back to the whole rapist and those other circumstances, well, two wrongs don't make a right, and that baby still deserves to live, and we sympathize. Now, yes, maybe some abortions in certain situations, especially when there's going to be a medical impact to the mother or to the child, then yes, maybe that can definitely be addressed, and we can find some common ground there. But getting back to common ground, let's talk about what Trump, I think, should do. And I'm not here to say I'm smarter than Trump, but I think even Trump would agree that there's always another way and another opinion and another strategy. And now that he's won, I think he needs to work on bringing the left back into the fold. And how can he do that? Maybe by trying to find some common ground and praising them for some of the things they do. Now, we do need both parties, and we need both parties to put a spotlight when there is corruption. And there can be corruption on both sides. Let's not, live this life of, we're so sanctimonious that only the other party is wrong. And, somebody once said also, as a proverb, that if you call everybody else a hypocrite and you never see the hypocrisy in yourself, then you need to look in the mirror, because we can all be hypocrites and we can all be bigots. So, and once we realize that, that's when we really start to grow as an individual. So realize that we're all bigots in some sort or fashion. We all have things we dislike. Whether you're a bigot against the GOP and the Republican Party, you're still a bigot. You dislike something. So what we need to praise the Dems on, let's just say, for instance, police brutality. I think that's a hyperbole. It's overstated. For instance, when the NFL gets on their knees and they're protesting, well, what are they really protesting? Black people make up 13% of the population, and they create over 50% of the homicides. So maybe there's a problem not with the cops, but with the actual black community. And if you go back, and after Lyndon B. Johnson and the Welfare Act, he was quoted as saying by some of the people very close to him that he was going to get the black vote and use the N-word for the next 50 years or 100 years, and you can Google that. It's very well documented, because we're going to give free handouts. And then we started giving them free handouts in the form of welfare, knocking on the doors to hand that out. Then basically what happened was a black people family unit that went from about 60% retention of marriage went down to what it is about 20% now. And it's a direct correlation to the marriages, and without having a father in the home, all statistics of kids having a harder time, whether it's dropout, pregnancy, addiction on drugs, incarceration, suicide. It all goes up over 80%. So we need to work and not kneel and protest the cops and the people in uniforms, but we need to protest that the people that are creating this environment where the family unit is not staying together. So maybe we need to give bigger tax incentives for people that are married, that have kids, and that do stay together, and penalize people more, so we're not so much enable them to hand out all these extra incentives when they aren't married. Let's face it, we all know that people are having kids just because they want more welfare money, which is, selfish on their part, and it's really making a victim out of the child. So that is the real issue here. But getting back to some common unity is that the NFL taking a knee, they're focused in the wrong direction. However, there is a small percentage of police brutality that does need to be put under the spotlight. And let's praise them when they bring that out to the light, because it's something that I think needs to be addressed. And that goes for corruption in every aspect of both parties. So we have to have both parties. So let's just, go ahead and agree on that we need both parties to keep everyone in line, checks and balances, and to keep everybody accountable. But to say everybody in law enforcement now is bad, and to say that we're going to abolish ICE, which prevents things, opioids, over 65,000 people died of opioid addiction. You got drugs like fentanyl. We're just almost the weight of a penny. And if they put that much, which I believe is 6 milligrams, which normally it's supposed to have 3, but just 6 can make you OD like that one time. So, and these are coming over from Mexico. Back when I was a child growing up on the border, maybe about 15,000 people died a year from ODs, from drug overaddiction. And the drugs that were coming in was 90% marijuana and cocaine, which was bad. But now these opioids, they'll make you die in a heartbeat. So why wouldn't we want to prevent those drugs from coming in here and killing all of our kids? And we need organizations like ICE to do that. That's the good work they do, and they put their life on the line every single day. And also to prevent terrorists from coming over here. I mean, so we do have to have a better vetted process. So we need to find some common ground, and we can't just say they're all bad. And what that's going to do is, when the left takes that stance, it's just going to more ignite the other side that realizes the common sense aspect, that we do need them, and we just find the common sense, again, as the old adage goes, isn't so common anymore. So when Trump's talking now, I think what he would agree is that to bring him back in the fold, he needs to recognize that there's good attributes and we need them around. So we should find 2 positive things to praise him on for every 1 negative thing that he might criticize them on. And by showing love, because the Trump's a God-fearing Christian, and whether you believe in the God as a deity or not, we can still take the stories of the biblical stories that have been around and for the millennia is a psychological way to live our life. And it talks about peace be with you. We all want peace with us. Any psychologist will tell you that. We want to have forgiveness and love, and that's what the Bible tells us. So any great country, and the reason why this country and the only other country that was founded on God, one nation under God, was Israel. And those 2 countries have shown the biggest blessings that have transcended the course of time and have been the greatest civilizations this world's ever seen. So basically, God means love. So let's show love now to that other side to get them back in the fold. And let's find some common ground so the Dems feel like there's something they can connect with us on. And by giving more love, we're going to make this world a better place. And God tells us that heaven is love. So why wouldn't we want to try to create that on earth? Peace be with you. That's what Jesus says. So let's focus on that, and let's focus on some common ground, and let's get people together on the same page. Try not to have so much division and hate, and be open-minded and see the benefits of both parties. I know it's hard sometimes. And the last thing I'll say is that I do believe that the conservative values in my heart is what's the most important thing about family, community, about making things strong. It's kind of like a wolf pack. You're stronger as a family unit. And I think that that liberals have kind of lost their way, and they're just too far extreme. And their only message right now is they hate Trump, and they want to, do anything that he supports and be the polar opposite. And I don't think that's the right message at all either. So anyways, it's my political rant. Let me know what you think. Later.